Made in Ethiopia, a film made in Ethiopia, actually a documentary.
The country needs more jobs.
We create almost 20,000 job opportunities.
Documented for about 4 years or 3 years, about 500 hours, and we went to see. It's an amazing movie. It's just quite contemporary. It shows the contrast of services.
ራሴን እችላለሁ ብዬ ወጥቼ ቤት መመለስ ብዙም ደስ አላለኝም ለዛ ነው
This is the first park in Ethiopia, just like a small city.
It seems to be unbelievable.
The Chinese corporates providing to Ethiopia because they were engaged in expanding industrial parks in southern part of the capital city, and the process, the industrial relation between the natives who provide service through their labor, and that was documented with 3 characters in mind. 2 of them were Ethiopians and 1 of them was Chinese. They all were 3 female, 1 CEO, a Chinese CEO who's overseeing the production, meaning the industrial production, which employs about 25,000, and the challenges facing managing such project. For instance, she was trying to acquire land to expand for another 30,000 job opportunities and a huge investment within that area. And the other 2 were Ethiopians. One, a young lady who took the opportunity to grab working in the industrial complex, which is the industrial park, and the challenges she faced through COVID and the social challenges she had. And the other would be another farmer wife who was so keen to leave the land because they were given promises that with some kind of compensation when the Chinese corporates were trying to expand within the given industrial park. When they were seeking land, they were promised compensation and relocation for their day-to-day activity, which is she's a wife of a farmer, and the challenge she had. It's an amazing documentary done by 3 individuals. I mean, it's there are a group of people involved, but mainly a Chinese director, a lady Chinese director who was born, I think, and raised in America, an English, a Scottish or a British director, and an Ethiopian director got involved creating this 90 minutes documentary. We managed to have a preview, the screening on that day, and we managed to have a quick word with the producer, and he gave us insight on how the filming and the production was conducted. And also in Amharic, I had a long conversation with one of the critics, how he found the film and the production and so forth. So I believe I've captured the moment, how he felt the impact of the movie was, and even the so-called industrial parks in Ethiopia. It's very interesting. Also, we've managed to record the Q&A.
Thanks. And that's...
So the Q&A was so interesting. I also have put this clip after the interview with Mr. Duncan. I hope you like it. It's the message actually from one of the directors is more Ethiopian to watch this. And I'm just speaking in English now because I want others, for instance, the young generation, to watch the reality of Ethiopian workers and investors in Ethiopia, how they narrate and tell the story of their ups and downs, or the contrast in life, what the challenges are and so forth. So it's a very interesting movie to watch. It would be screened in Ethiopia in January next year. The date is not specified yet. I believe the film may be released in some of the mediums like Netflix and so forth, but I think that they're now trying to break through in terms of premieres. And I think they had one premiere in screening in America. One of the Ethiopian producer is Canadian, Ethio-Canadian, and she has actually managed to screen that in America, in Washington or Seattle. I'm not sure where, but Mr. Duncan will tell us in detail about it. But they're very keen for Ethiopians, the young generation, to look into this film and share their opinions and so forth. It's a very interesting film. I would urge everyone to watch it. It's quite entertaining as well as informative. Put it this way, it's a long-term research, but documented in a form of a video, and the narration is scripted in English as a subtitle, but most of the composition is actually was narrated by the participants, the three characters I mentioned, and it helps to understand and see the points of view of these participants. And kudos to the directors who managed to capture the moment, even though they've out of 500 hours they cut out this into a scene of 90 minutes. Even that 90 minutes was very interesting. It was a house full in East London where we had the chance to see this, and most of them were from the Chinese community, the British, and few Ethiopians, and some of them have raised a few interesting questions, and I would urge you to watch this. Thank you.
የኢትዮጵያ ብልጽግና የሚወለደው በልጆቿ ትጋትና አንድነት ብቻ መሆኑን አንዘንጋ።
The country needs more jobs.
We create almost 20,000 job opportunities.
ራሴን እችላለሁ ብዬ ወጥቼ ቤት መመለስ ብዙም ደስ አላለኝም። ለዛ ነው
跟我们国内当年那个时候是差不多的。
一样的啊。This is the first park in Ethiopia, just like a small city.
It seems to be unbelievable, but I have to believe if I listen to you.
Fast, run! We're gonna create another 30,000 job opportunities, but we're just waiting for the land.
ፓርኮችን አስፋፍተው እንግዲህ ገበሬ ስራ ወጥቶ ወደሱ እንዲያድግ ወደ ኢንዱስትሪ እንዲያድግ ነው።
እኛ ገበሬ ለቆ የት ሄዳል? እኛ እርሻ ነው።
የኛ መፍታችን ይከበርልን ነው።
አንተና አይኔ ምንም ሁሉም አንተ ላይ ጋራንቲ ነው ባዜጋ
No. We know there are some challenges. Some are not willing to work overtime. Some of them are inefficient.
解决这个国家的问题一定是靠经济，落后就挨打，这个就是一个很残酷的现实。
Thank you very much. Just introduce yourself to us, and what was the interest, the very interest that led you to film 500 hours and you turned it down to what, 2 hours?
An hour and a half, yeah. So my name is Max Duncan. I'm one of the directors of Made in Ethiopia, along with Xinyan Yu, co-director, and our producer Tamara Dawit, who I think is quite known in the Ethiopian diaspora. Our film's called Made in Ethiopia, and we've just premiered in London today. What made us want to make this film? I think Ethiopia is such an amazing country, and it's the way it was growing, the way it was changing and transforming was fascinating to us. I think also having lived in China for many years and seen how China grew, we were very influenced by how Chinese industrialization impacted Chinese people and the similarities and differences that were taking place in Ethiopia as China was investing a lot there. Yeah.
Thanks very much. What I realized that you're a bit sensitive about some of the questionnaire from one of the Ethiopian. He actually accused of the Chinese shipping undesired population to a place like Ethiopia. Well, why were you denying the fact that there were issues raised in other African countries about that?
Right. No, I mean, I think the one thing that specifically he asked about was this idea of the shipping of prisoners, and the reason I picked up on that is because it's something that we've heard a lot of rumors about it happening, but in having, we've done quite a lot of research and reading, and one way or another we haven't seen any concrete evidence of that. And I think I've seen this addressed as well. It may be that, for example, in some cases, like the workers look, the way they dress or whatever, they look quite like disheveled or not well presented, and that's what's happened. I'm not a spokesman. I mean, I can't. Maybe it's true, but we've never seen any convincing evidence that it is, and I hear it everywhere I go. So it could have happened. It could have happened, but certainly I've never seen any evidence of it, convincing evidence at all.
I appreciate that.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. The other bit would be, what kind? You had a visa, which you've described. I won't mention it again. But the team, for instance, you must have had Chinese team who were dealing with the Chinese, because
No, I mean, my co-director Xinyan is Chinese, but she lives in Washington.
Okay, so was she behind the camera?
No, I'm behind the camera, but she's behind a camera. She's second camera. Yeah.
Okay,
but
what camera were you using to?
C300 Mark II, the Canon. Yeah. It's a great camera. So that's the majority of the films filmed on that. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the issue, for instance, in terms of your visa, and you actually were working for 3+ years? Was there an issue from the government?
Never. And this was one of the surprising things. From the first time we applied for a visa, the first time we applied, actually, we had an invitation letter from the industrial park, but after that we would just apply through Tamara's company, Gobez Media, and we'd just do a regular journalism visa application for a full month visa, and we got it again and again and again. There was one time where after the war with Tigray, where it took longer to come through, but we were never denied a visa, even during politically sensitive times, which was quite surprising to us, because I know certain other news media were at that point not getting visas, right? So we didn't have a.
You're following the lady who's now expanding, I take it, from the industrial park. Now she's a global throtter. She's got business in Kenya.
She sent us some information. I don't know what her exact relationship with the park was, but she sent us information about the part of the project. I don't think so. I think the film. This is where we kind of leave it here. I think. No plans anyway. I mean, but the thing is, a lot of people ask that question because I think there's something about her in particular that's very compelling to people, and they sort of want. And her role, obviously, it's like some
emotion she was expressing. It's amazing how frustrating the so-called bureaucracy and political and so forth. She actually was a good character, revealing the unseen.
Yeah, she's somebody who like doesn't appreciate propaganda, and she's somebody who I think she's somebody who thinks that like if you're going to talk about the situation, you have to show the complexity of the situation. Nothing is easy. She's a very open-minded person.
Yeah, I appreciate your time now. But,
no, thank you.
I'll end it soon. In terms of the other characters, the Ethiopian, the ladies, who are following them, especially in some of the, for instance, the events where people were worshipping
Eritrea, yeah.
How did you manage to create the scene between the industrialization and the locals fighting their way through their god in terms of getting justice?
I mean, how did we do it? We just spent a lot of time hanging around in the village basically until we became part of the furniture. And I don't think so when Eritrea was happening, obviously in Bishoftu they have a huge celebration, but we speak to the villagers like, what do you guys do? And they basically, this is what they do. They have a smaller ceremony for the community under the tree, and it was extraordinary to be part of it. It's one of those things when you're making a documentary, you don't really know what's going to happen, and then something like that just sort of happens in front of your eyes, and you feel very, very privileged to be there at the right time and be accepted to be able to film something like that, because it was quite an amazing thing. Yeah.
Personally, I enjoyed the film.
Thank you.
Would you recommend other Ethiopians to see it, because you have?
We want as many Ethiopians to see the film as possible.
Well, what was the reason that you haven't actually premiered that in Addis or anything?
I mean, why we haven't premiered that? We're going to screen in January. That's the plan. But in terms of a premiere, I mean, we got into Tribeca, the festival in New York, and it just has a certain recognition. And then our Africa premiere was in Encounters Festival in South Africa, which is also, it's a great festival. So we were really happy to premiere there. But we will show it in Ethiopia. Yeah.
The feedback and the amount of people with the short notice is amazing. So, I mean, in terms of Ethiopians, would you like to reach them out? I know you're interested.
We want to reach out to as many Ethiopians as possible, in whether it's in the UK or in Ethiopia, or and the wider Habesha community as well. Eritreans.
Do you have any?
We have some connections. Our producer Tamara is Ethiopian Canadian, so she has a network which she's helped with some of the kind of engaging with the Ethiopian community here in London, but she has much stronger networks in North America.
So you're heading there as well.
Well, we've had screenings in Washington with a huge Ethiopian turnout in Washington. I mean, huge. It was 300 seats and it was completely packed. And there were a lot of them were Ethiopian. Very, very positive. I wasn't there, but my colleagues Xinyan and Tamara were both there, and it was really, really positive. Yes, it was when you get a very big audience and there's a lot of energy. Yeah, it was great.
Well, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate your enthusiasm. Thank you so much.
If you have any message to my audience, I would be grateful if you.
No, I would just say come and see Made in Ethiopia. It'll surprise you and it'll make you think.
It will be in January. When in January?
We haven't. It's probably during design week.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Oh, Max Duncan.
Max.
Yeah.
Can I take a picture?
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Come on.
Hi, I'm Made in Ethiopia. A documentary film made in Ethiopia, in Dukham, which is south of the capital city of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. On that particular film, the documentary was set to reflect three characters: one Chinese, two Ethiopians, one young girl who just joined this industrial park, and a wife of a farmer who is keen to relocate and start a new life, but the process was a bit longer. She didn't get the so-called compensation. Her family were going through very challenging times, and the Chinese CEO of this industrial park was also going through a very difficult time, trying to fulfill her ambition, her corporate ambition, and the difficulties which was generated by the Ethiopian officials, and obviously the challenge which was emanating from the locals as well, because they were supposed to be transferred into a new land. Most of them were farmers, and they should have been allocated a decent compensation and so forth. So that film is going through the process of these three characters who are telling us the stories in a different way, and the filmmakers were here in London. They screened it on the 29th of October, on Tuesday, somewhere in East London. We had a privilege to see that film with my colleague and a few other Ethiopians, but the house was full of people who were very keen and interested to watch the documentary, young journalists, enthusiasts, filmmakers, and the public at large were fascinated by the story. They really enjoyed it. So the composition of the audience were from Chinese background, English students, multipods, including Ethiopians and so forth. A very interesting film. But after the film screening, we had a Q&A with the Max Duncan, one of the directors. Max Duncan was here on this screening. We had a chat with him as well. So we invite you to watch this. A very interesting film. He's insisted that Ethiopians should watch this film. So I would urge you, those Ethiopians and Ethiopian lovers and African brothers and sisters, should watch this film and learn from the day-to-day challenge in Ethiopia. The youngsters face, the business communities, especially the investors face, and obviously the government's officials and so forth, going through a very challenging time. So I would urge you to watch this and pass on to others. Probably it's going to be screened on Netflix and so forth, but we're not sure. But there will be a definite screening in Ethiopia in January next year. So let's go and watch the interview with the director.
Everything else. Just give me an idea of how did it come about, imagination, or even consider Ethiopia as your beginning.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we both of us worked as journalists in China. I was there for 10 years, and Xinyan was born in Wuhan in China, and she was working at the BBC. And I think a lot of what connected many of the things that we were dealing with as journalists were related to industrialization, urbanization, and the kind of impact that that had on people, the human kind of component of that. And that coincided with a time when China was investing more and more in the developing world in general, but in Africa in particular, and Ethiopia was a big kind of hub of its sort of strategic investment in Africa. And so in that sense, Ethiopia was logical, but I'd been to Ethiopia a couple of times before for travel and for work, and it's obviously an amazing country. But what was really relevant about it for this project was that the development model that they had sort of elected was so similar in many ways to the one that China had been on since the kind of the late 70s. Big, very state-led, big infrastructure projects, and then basically, in some ways, it was quite similar to China because it had a huge population of young people that needed jobs and not really natural resources. So the kind of comparisons with China were really interesting, but then at the same time, culturally so distinct. And Ethiopia culturally in so many ways is so fascinating. So we teamed up with Tamara Dawit, our producer, and basically we went out to look at what we could find. And the most interesting thing, Tamara was a little bit later, but the most interesting thing, all these different kind of aspects of Chinese investment that we found in Ethiopia was these industrial parks. And this one that you see in the film is the first big Chinese industrial park in the country. And it seemed like such an amazing kind of microcosm to look at all the different aspects of the relationship between China and Ethiopia and the dynamics of growth and Ethiopia's aspirations and China's influence and everything. So we just sort of took it from there. Yeah.
Thread in your story to get her as a central piece of your film.
So we'd actually visited this industrial park before, and it had been with the director had been a different guy who was retiring, and she basically came in to replace him. So the first time we went, met him, and thought, nice enough guy, but he didn't sort of strike us as particularly interesting. But the place is obviously amazing. And when we went back and we met her and walked into the office, someone said, you've got to go and meet Moto. And we walked into her office, and just chatting to her for a couple of minutes, it was already, I don't think we realised quite how surprising she was as a